Well, I was tracting with my trainer, and he was a workhorse. Make sure you appreciate your trainer. A lot of people don't appreciate their trainer. I knew that I came out with the expectation that he was going to be perfect, and he wasn't. But he was darn sure close to it. I just didn't appreciate that quite so much at the time. But we worked really, really amazingly hard. We used to pack a lunch, and we'd stay out all day Saturday. And we put in immense amount of work, and we just practically ran from door to door. He was 6'8", so it was hard for me to keep up with that. And everyone expected I was 14. If he was 19 and 6'8", I must only be 14. But we worked really hard over the course of this 1 3-week span. We had 17 people in our teaching pool, which is pretty sizable for that area. I mean, Italy is, you usually won't have more than a handful. We had 17 people, and 4 of them had baptismal dates set. And in 1 week, our teaching pool dropped down to 3, and we lost all our baptismal invites, all our baptismal commitments. And it was a really hard time, because I loved each and every one of these people. I knew them, and all of a sudden they didn't want to talk to us anymore. And we worked our tails off trying to find more people. And at one point, my companion just turned around and he says, "We're in the wrong building." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And so he said, "Okay, you're the greenie, you're the magic worker, you pick where." And I had no idea. So I just kind of closed my eyes and I kind of picked a direction what I thought was nearly at random. And then we walked to a specific door and he's like, "Yeah, this is right." And I was amazed that he was so certain of it. So he said, "All right, now they have this intercom thing, different doorbells for each person. You push it and then the speaker comes on and they ask who you are." And so he's like, "All right, now you pick the button." So I'm like, I don't know. And I pushed one. And the guy said, "Who is it?" And we said, "We're 2 missionaries of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." And we didn't get any farther. I didn't get to give my whole spiel. He interrupted and he said, "Perfect. I just got up off my knees praying to ask for help. Come on up." And so we went upstairs, and he was this old guy. He was almost 70. He's still actively working construction. Muratore is what they call him. Build walls is what the word means. We sat down, we talked with him, and we noticed all over there was art, which was somewhat less than appropriate. It was made out of collages of things cut out of magazines, and it's about as bad as, I mean, we used to joke that they use pornography for wallpaper in Italy because they don't have censorship for their advertisements or anything. If you walk into a newsstand to buy a bus ticket, you can look at 2 things: the guy's eyes and your feet. So I was used to some pretty shocking stuff, but this was bad, even according to Italian standards. And so we taught him a first discussion, and despite the wall hangings, the Spirit was there. It was there very strongly. We gave him the Book of Mormon. And we came back the next time, and we said, it was like 4 days later, and we said, where are you in the Book of Mormon? And usually we're expecting, I haven't opened it yet, so then we'd open it. Maybe they read the title page, and we opened it, and we're all ready to sit there and read it with him. And he says, I'm in Jacob. And we're like, you made it all the way to Jacob? And he says, no, I finished it, but then I started over, and I'm in Jacob. And we're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So we came back, and we taught him again and again, and he gave us chocolates the first time, and there was, it's called Mon Cher. Don't eat Mon Cher chocolates because they're a little pocket of whiskey covered in chocolate. So then he said sorry. He realized that he probably shouldn't have given us the ones filled with whiskey. So that time he gave us ones filled with champagne. Just kind of be wary of the chocolates you eat. They like to mix coffee in there too. But we began to talk to him, and in the middle of the discussion, we felt like we should talk to him about the law of chastity, even though that's not covered until later, usually. Well, at the time it was a little bit more specific. We still had the lessons. Preach My Gospel came out a few months afterwards. But so we started talking to him about the law of chastity. And we came back the next time, and his pictures were all still up. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure he quite understood what we were talking about here. So we just very seriously talked to him about it. And we said, look, this means you need to make a lot of sacrifices. He's like, yeah, but... And he instantly knew we were talking about the pictures. We didn't have to tell him that. We didn't have to specify anything. He's like, I put a lot of time into these. And we're like, well, do you think that there's something better you could put up? Do you think that there's something better you could do? That you could do better than that, maybe? And I thought for sure the answer was no. He was kind of dispirited by the time that we left, because we also covered the word of wisdom and several of the other things. We just kind of followed the Spirit. And it seemed like the Spirit was telling us to tell him everything, every hard thing that he had to do all at once. And usually that means they're going to ask you to go away and not come back because they don't want to make all the sacrifices at once, just one a week or a couple a week, But we came back and all the pornography was thrown away. He had some Da Vinci's up. He had some little, Caravaggio paintings up. He had a whole bunch of really nice fine art up. And a few new ones that he'd done that were quite nice. And and he offered us, I can't even remember what they're called, but he offered us candy with no alcohol in it, and he showed us his cupboards very proudly that he threw away everything. And we said, well, what about your smoking? How are you coming on that? And he's like, I didn't smoke a cigarette since you left last time. Everything just went beautifully. Now, I would love to say that this ends with him getting baptized, but I have no idea how it ends. I'm sharing this story partly because you're going to have really hard experiences. We lost almost everybody that I cared about in that city before we found him. And secondly, because he had to work out of town in Milano for 3 months, and so we transferred him to the missionaries up there, and by the time he came back, I was transferred away. And he moved, apparently, before I was able to write a letter to him. And so I really don't know what happened. And that's the story a lot of times that you find really amazing investigators. But, it's been 8 years since I've come home from my mission. And that still makes it worth it for us to have gone through several months. Just those minutes where you could see him sacrificing everything to get closer to the Lord. And it making such a difference in his life. His face just coming alive as he talks about his favorite parts of the Book of Mormon. You don't have many of those moments, but God always gives you enough.